just start out for a second and talk a little bit about context. As architects, when we talk about context, we're usually talking about something that's physical, but there are other aspects, political, cultural, and so forth. This project is in the UAE, and I always have a hard time grasping the difference between the UAE and China, which China with 1.3 billion people, and the UAE with somewhere between 9 and 10 million, less than a million are Emiratis. The half of the rest are either people from developed countries that are helping to organize things, or developing countries that are as guest workers and so forth. So there's a kind of a fundamental difference just in terms of the scale of the country and obviously the context as well. The dot that you see on the map there is actually Abu Dhabi, but the one that got covered up, which it's a little bit up further, is Dubai. And the differences between, in spite of the fact they're both part of the UAE, there are 7 emirates. Abu Dhabi and Dubai are the two probably the most well-known and most prominent, but the two could not really be much different. When we first started working in Abu Dhabi, this was Soa Island, and as you can see, there was virtually nothing there. So the context and physically was yet to be determined. It shows it within the greater city. This is the island as it was planned and developed. The gray area there is the first project that we did, which was the Abu Dhabi Financial Center. When we started on that project, the goal was to build a, quote, and I never liked the word, but iconic business center. And in the UAE, the term iconic has a certain ring to it when you think about all the projects that are in Dubai and sort of the spectacular architectural shapes and forms. And in Abu Dhabi, when they talk about iconic, they said also it can't be more than 32 stories tall. So it's a whole different attitude between Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and things are just considerably more conservative. One reason, I think, is, quite frankly, is that Abu Dhabi has the oil and the way, the income potential. Dubai created out of the desert something really spectacular in a very short period of time. So they're two fundamentally different entities within a relatively small political area. This, just go through that very quick. One of the things that is always interesting is how do clients select architects? And once again, I think the Abu Dhabi influence was a factor. Their feeling was that, the client's feeling in this case, Abu Dhabi, or the Al Hilal Bank, was that architectural competitions tend to get architects too excited and the clients get too dramatic. So what they interviewed 4 or 5 firms with the understanding that whoever they selected had to design 5 different buildings from which they would choose. So it was a kind of a competition within a firm as opposed to between firms. These were the 5 schemes that we started with. The ground floor plan, I'll just go. The building has actually a very deep excavation. It was when you went there and you saw the cross bracing, you just hoped that it was going to hold. The floor plate was, as you could imagine, very simple. This happens to be the high-rise, the zone 3. There were 3 zones, low, mid, and high. designed to be very practical. On the one hand, they wanted to have a building that was practical, but they also wanted to have something that was, to some extent, distinctive and would make a statement for the bank. These are each of the different elevations. One thing that we always feel good about, when it occurs anyway, is that when the building looks like the rendering, and here you can see there's a podium, the low-rise, mid-rise, and the high-rise portion. This is, we had, when the building was almost complete, we had a photographer go over there and start taking photographs, and as you can see, it's basically a glass building, and there are a couple of good reasons, I think, for doing glass buildings in that part of the world. This photograph was taken on the second day of the photographer's visit. This was the first day. So you can see, if you get a feeling that there's some brown on the building and so forth, it had to do with the sandstorm. As I mentioned, one of the reasons I think for making a glass building is you can see it actually cleans up pretty well. With the previous building we used horizontal sunshades. The vertical sunshades, I think, are actually much more practical. The building, the sustainable measure there, to some extent, is called Estidama. There's 1 pearl, 2 pearl, 3 pearl, and 4 pearl that coincides very closely with our lead. The 1 pearl is basically certified. The strategies are all pretty similar to what you could expect. One of the things that's particularly important when you saw that sandstorm is the idea of being able to have minimal use of outside air to protect the air intakes and so forth. There's extensive metering to make sure that the energy electrical consumption is as designed. The energy modeling to also, once again, was designed to, in spite of it being an all-glass building, to have the 12% reduction over the ASHRAE 90. And there are a bunch of miscellaneous other strategies, including recycling and enhanced commissioning and so forth. This is obviously a detail of the building. Basically, the building has glass fins. One of the things that I think about glass buildings, which we all recognize to some extent, is that it's hard to control the flatness of glass. And one of the things that we did was use the vertical laminated glass fins that have a certain precision that kind of override the reflections. The Al Hilal Bank people were particularly interested in making sure that the building was constructed with a high level of quality. And to reinforce that, they made a number of large full-scale mock-ups. This is one of the skin. There were the lobby, the elevator cabs, and so forth. It's a detail of the fins. Glass fins was a slight shading aspect to them. These are kind of some sun diagrams. One of the things that is helpful in terms of strategy is interrupting the sunlight before it hits a building. And here you can see a pattern on the floor as the sun moves around the building. There is a point actually when the building, the shades completely cover the outside light. And with the glass fins, it does interrupt the heat, or it does absorb the heat, but at the same time, it does not restrict the amount of daylight. In fact, the feeling almost is that the fins are illuminated. The Al Hilal Bank wanted to, almost all of their buildings have orange as a feature in the building. And so that was something that they asked us to develop and to incorporate within the building. So building kind of obviously from the distance, you can see the lobby. There's a large travertine portal that provides access to the 3 elevator zones. The lobby also has very high glass bins, but it clearly is distinct from the tower. There's a view of the lobby. You see the large travertine portal, and then the 3 elevator banks with the Rosa Verona stone. The stone was actually quarried in such a way that what you're seeing is almost what you would see if you would have polished the side of the quarry. So each block was taken out and put together in a way so that the veins are perfectly matched. Another slightly more close-up view of the lobby. View from the distance and sort of the context, and then one from just a little further away at night. Thank you.